Just before the summer, someone left this comment on one of my videos. How do you decide upon entering your craft room what to create? Do you use a particular product, technique, occasion, or something you've seen? I have so many things I want to try, but I get in there and I don't even know where to start. Please help. What a great question. And now, after spending a very busy summer with lots of family stuff going on and taking a big break from making cards and videos, I'm back in my craft room and I get it. So let's start here. Are you creating a card you need for someone specific? If the answer is yes, that can give you lots of places to start. You know the person, you know the occasion, maybe you know their favorite colors or their interests, and those can give you lots of starting points. If you're creating just to play or to have some cards on hand, it can be a little tougher to know where to start. I always prefer to have some design direction or a starting point. Nothing is scarier to me than a blank page. Let's take a quick look at my Instagram saved items so I can make a card while we're chatting. This in Pinterest is where I keep a list of things that inspired me that I want to come back to. This comforter really caught my eye. I've been loving these warm blue and orange tones together, and that pattern is stunning. Let's do a quick LIMES analysis. If you don't know about my LIMES acronym, I'll link the playlist in the description, but this should give you a really quick overview. LIMES stands for list, include, modify, exclude, and spin, and it helps me take an inspiration, whether it's a card or something else like this comforter, and make a card that's my own. I start by listing the colors, techniques, and elements. So I've got 2 blues, 2 oranges. Since this isn't a card, there aren't really any techniques to list, but for elements, there's an ornate pattern, an orange border, and a reversible feature that I really want to make use of. So I start by creating 2 panels of colored cardstock by swiping Skylight and then orange peel ink over top. Depending on how dry my ink pad is, I actually tend to pounce rather than swipe the ink pad, and I don't worry too much about getting it perfectly smooth, just making sure it's fully covered. And as it dries, it'll smooth out and the color will soften to its true shade. To create a pattern quickly, I often turn to my cover plates. I've got this one from Catherine Pooler that I haven't used yet, and by cutting it from both panels, I'll be able to inlay one color into the other and get 2 cards. I guess it's really a 2 for 2 rather than a 2 for 1. I could have done faux inlay, but I really wanted to get the darker shades of each color into this as well as dimension by adding some ink blending to each piece. So I popped out all the pieces. I was thinking I needed to keep them all in the right order, but in fact these pieces are pretty interchangeable, and I think that's a sign of good design. If you're looking for some good starting off points, try joining card making challenges which have specific design criteria. I did this way back when I started making cards. Some were product-based or maybe a color challenge, or a sketch challenge, a technique challenge, or even inspiration challenges. A different kind of challenge and another good place to start is Craft Roulette. Every Friday night, Mary and a guest crafter spin the wheel to choose 4 parameters for that week's challenge. And you can take a look at the current wheel parameters on their website at any time to get some ideas. Next came the ink blending and inlaying. I started with the ink blending and quickly realized that it would go faster if I blended then inlaid, rather than trying to put the blended pieces down and then inlay them all later. When I inlay, I create a backer with printer paper and I put glue all over it. Then I place the outline on top and my pieces have a sticky place to land. I got a few in before I remembered that I wanted to add some deeper oranges as well as the deeper blues. So I stopped inlaying and blended some spice ink over top of the crisscross bits in the pattern with a finger dauber. I went back to the ink blending and then I realized that I thought that the spice was really too brown. So I blended some Mandarin spice ink over top and I went back to ink blending and inlaying the blue pieces. Inlay die cutting can be time consuming, but it's not difficult. It's just like putting a puzzle together. I really like the flat look you get with it. Now back to my crafty journey. I quickly realized that my favorite type of challenge was an inspiration challenge. I felt like color challenges were too vague, sketch challenges were too restrictive, but an inspiration challenge is just right. It's all about creating a similar look with whatever you have on hand, and over the years, that's become my go-to. Now that I'm finished with the inlay, I flip the panel over and I give it a good burnish to make sure that everything's really stuck together. And now I keep lists. My inspiration list is on my Pinterest boards and in my Instagram saved items. I keep track of my new unused items. I do this in my Evernote inventory app, but you can do it by simply keeping new items in a separate place to remind you to use them. I also keep a list of cards I need to make for friends and family. Birthday, thank you, Christmas cards, and sympathy cards are the ones I make most. I also keep a list of videos I want to make, and that acts as a list of techniques I want to try. I tried blending multiple pieces at a time to make it go faster, and I didn't change my mind about any of the colors this time, but overall, it took me pretty much the same amount of time. Once both my panels were finished, I trimmed them with square dies. That's why I didn't add those top pieces in, but you could definitely do that and use the full panels if you want. To get that reversible feature from the comforter, I used a circle die to cut a circle from the center of each panel. Now, when I saw this in real life, I felt like there wasn't enough contrast between the sections on the panels, so I added a step to my original plan. Maybe I was just too close and I needed to step away or something, but looking at it now, I wish I had left it like this. When I'm making a card based on an inspiration, I feel like I have lots of flexibility, but also some guidance. I try to match the colors in my inspiration to my Catherine Pooler inks, but I don't worry too much if it's not a perfect match. I try to use my new unused products. In fact, I have a goal of having a very low number of products in my unused category by the end of the year. So I really try to focus on making use of them, but I don't worry if I end up going back to my old favorites. Same with techniques. I can try something new, especially if I've purchased a new tool, or I can go back to something I've had success with in the past, or something I need to practice. And now that I'm not on design teams, I have the flexibility to mix and match products from different companies if I choose, which I love. So what do you do if you're still not feeling inspired? If you're a stamper, stamp and color some images for future cards. You can keep them in the back of the stamp pocket. If you're a die cutter, choose some of your favorite dies, maybe sentiments, and cut them out for future projects. If you love background techniques like stenciling or gel plate, just make a few and get some practice in. And don't feel discouraged if you're having a bad crafty day. We all have them. Try tidying up your space or just flipping through your stuff. Sometimes touching your crafty goodies will inspire you. I bet that by just taking whichever first step you choose, something will spark and get you creating again. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.